picture this. You've just spent 5 hours in meetings, nodding, smiling, pretending to be normal, but on the inside, your mental batteries are on zero. Sound familiar? Well, by the end of today's session, we'll have covered the hidden cost of burnout, how fatigue hits differently, and some practical strategies for prevention and recovery. Hey everyone. I'm Ellie McGowan, and my personal journey is what has brought me here today. I discovered Agile while working in the Victorian state government, and I was instantly hooked. And now I'm an experienced Scrum Master, and I'm a mature age postgrad. I actually dropped out. This is not part of the notes, but I did drop out in year 11, so that's a big achievement. I actually finished that degree while on maternity leave. And so I took an 8-year break from work to raise our children. That's Alice, who's 11, and James, who's 8. Alice loves stage school, and James is a Minecraft fanatic. Does anyone else have little gamers at home? So when I returned to work after the 8 years, I became a certified Scrum Master within just 5 weeks, and I started studying for the cloud practitioner through AWS. But then, burnout hit. I'd already had an ADHD diagnosis, which I'd received pretty late, and a sleep disorder. But burnout pushed me past my limits. And it wasn't just exhaustion, it was life-altering. And the doctors sent me off for MS testing because of all the weird symptoms I was having, and I just couldn't keep going. It was just too unsustainable, and I broke down. And that's when they were finally able to diagnose me with Asperger's syndrome. That experience changed everything, and that's why I'm here today, talking about burnout in neurodivergent people. So before my ADHD and autism diagnosis, I had an MSLT, so that's a multiple sleep latency test. It's a test that measures how quickly you fall asleep during the day. So normal range, so if most of you were tested here today, you'd mostly fall asleep within that 10 to 20 minute mark. My score was just 7.4 minutes. So my brain craves rest, not from lack of sleep, actually I sleep a lot and quite efficiently, but because my nervous system is completely drained. And during a burnout, I can sleep from 10 to 13 hours and still wake up exhausted. Even just preparing for this talk, on top of my full-time job and my family commitments, was a challenge. Just last Thursday, I saw my best friend at school pickup at 9 o'clock, and he said, "Oh, why do you look so tired?" "Oh, it's because I've been doing this." Anyone else feel like even a full night's sleep just doesn't cut it? So, what is autistic burnout? The World Health Organization defines burnout as a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that hasn't been successfully managed. But autistic burnout is different. It's a level of exhaustion specific to autistic people, and it's linked to autism-related challenges. And so, general stress is just the icing on the cake. Burnout isn't just about feeling tired. It's now officially recognised in the International Classification of Disease as an occupational phenomenon. It's classified as a syndrome caused by chronic workplace stress that hasn't been successfully managed. This isn't just about exhaustion. It affects productivity, mental health, and overall well-being. Now, if burnout is a serious issue for everyone, Imagine just how much harder it is for us neurodivergent people who already have that specific burnout to deal with. So many of us mask just to get through the day. We work twice as hard to fit into environments that weren't built for us. We manage sensory overload, executive dysfunction, and social expectations, all while trying to keep up with neurotypical standards. So yeah, our nervous system burns out faster, and that's because we are constantly in fight or flight mode. We're pushing through exhaustion just to function. And when we do hit burnout, recovery isn't just as simple as having some rest. That's why understanding burnout in the context of neurodivergent, not in the context of neurodivergence, is so important, not just for us, but for our workplaces, healthcare providers, and society as a whole. So we know autistic burnout is a huge issue, but here's the thing. Autism itself is widely misunderstood. A lot of people think autism is a straight line, where you're very autistic on one side and a little bit autistic on the other, but that's just not how it works. It's more like a colour wheel, a spectrum of traits that vary in intensity and experience. One autistic person might struggle with sensory overload but love socialising, while another might be non-verbal but be okay in loud environments. And that's just why you can't judge someone, and you can't judge their autism just by looking at them or by how well your colleague seems to function in meetings. Masking and coping strategies can make things appear very different to reality. Autistic burnout isn't just about stress, it's about existing in a world that was not built for us. Many of us spend our whole lives trying to navigate confusing social expectations, dealing with sensory overload, and managing an unpredictable world. That takes a toll. And to meet society's expectations, we mask, and that's hiding our autistic traits to fit in. But masking is exhausting, even when we don't realise we're doing it. Over time, this constant effort drains our energy and leads to chronic stress. And when that stress builds up and up past breaking point, we don't just get tired, we experience autistic burnout. But remember, that's different. Autistic burnout is different from general burnout. It's not just about overworking, it's an exhaustion that comes from autism-related challenges. Like I've mentioned, the sensory processing, social demands and masking. And understanding this difference is crucial because autistic burnout isn't just something you can keep pushing through, it requires real recovery and real support. So, what does autistic burnout actually look like? It's not just a feeling of tired, it's a deep, overwhelming exhaustion that impacts every part of life. And because it's tied to those autism-related challenges, it often just creeps in and presents in ways people don't even recognise as burnout themselves. So we have the mental and physical exhaustion. Not just about feeling tired, it's extreme, body-deep fatigue. The intrapersonal withdrawal, so even close relationships feel really overwhelming, and that leads to avoiding those social interactions. I spend a lot of time in bed at home with the doonas over my head. Apparently it's not normal. Increased autistic traits. Now this isn't written in my notes, but while we're here, a lot of you met me today and I'm very autistic. But beforehand, if you'd met me when I was an executive assistant, you would have said, oh, isn't she lovely and bubbly? But yeah, over time I just have been so burnt out that I can't hide it anymore. So yeah, those autistic traits, they're more noticeable. Stimming, and I'll get into that, I'll explain stimming in a minute. But more noticeable stimming, special interests, less eye contact. And then there's the sleep disturbances. So sleeping too much, too little, or not wake up feeling refreshed, no matter how long you sleep. Reduced functioning. So that's struggling with daily tasks that were once manageable. Increased sensory sensitivities. It's not that we suddenly develop new sensitivities, it's that our tolerance for the stimuli drops. Lights feel harsher, sounds feel louder, and everything is just too much. Then we have the reduced masking abilities, which is what I just touched on before, but that's the energy to act neurotypical, and that just runs out. It really does take more to then try to hide that autism. And then there's the confusion or disassociation. That's feeling mentally foggy, disconnected from reality, or zoning out more often. So that's the main reason why I think I didn't get diagnosed so quickly, because I just slept and slept and slept. I couldn't name that feeling of being disassociated and foggy. Yeah, and because many of us have been burned out for so long, we don't even realise we're in it until we completely crash. This is the point where you're going to hear lots of women threatening, "That's it, I'm checking myself into hospital," just right on the end. Talking about the impacts, it's not just temporary, and it's not just temporary exhaustion. It can derail entire parts of life. Unlike general burnout, bouncing back isn't as simple as just taking a break. And it isn't just a bad day. It can last from days to months. I was talking to somebody earlier who said that theirs lasted for a whole year. And some people experience more long-term impacts, like including lasting changes in their abilities and coping skills. And what happens during an autistic burnout? Well, previously learned abilities like executive functioning, social skills, or communication might decline or disappear temporarily. So then there's the mood swings, meltdowns, or feeling emotionally numb. And we have difficulties with everyday tasks, even simple things like cooking, showering, or even responding to messages can feel overwhelmingly impossible. And this really does affect every part of life. So for education, struggling with coursework, meeting deadlines, or just attending class. Employment, we could have difficulty keeping up with job demands, leading to performance issues or even job loss. And for our relationships, that increased tension in friendships, family life, or romantic relationships. Even basic self-care can feel overwhelming, like preparing something to eat or just getting up to get a glass of water. What is masking? I've already talked about it a little bit, but just to make sure that we all are on the same page, it's like wearing a costume to fit in. Neurodivergent people, like those of us with autism, sometimes hide our true selves to blend in with society. And we pretend to act like everyone else, even when that's really, really hard. Why do we do it? To avoid getting in trouble or being misunderstood. To feel like we belong socially and at work. Personally, I went back to work, not because I had to, but because it actually made me feel like I belong somewhere. I went back to IT, and you IT people are my safe place. However, if someone tells me that I've made a huge social error at work, and I'm talking like a big one, where I might have been removed from a whole team, because I offended one person, it crushes me so badly that I can't even look at myself in the mirror. Do we need some examples? So holding back repetitive movements or sounds that help soothe or regulate emotions. So that's what I talk about, stimming. So fidgeting, that's stimming. Not fidgeting, that's masking or suppressing the stim. Mimicking the behaviour and reactions of others just to fit in, not talking about our special interests and hobbies. Do you know how hard it is for me to stand here and not talk about Scrum? I actually thought about just making it Scrum since I had you all captive. Participating in casual conversations, even when it feels unnatural or uncomfortable. Maintaining eye contact despite the discomfort. Displaying expressions that are socially expected rather than genuine. Who has been told to smile more? Communicating verbally, even when it feels more natural to communicate differently or not at all. I love sending text messages to my husband when he's in the next room. Actually, since you laughed at that, my daughter has a chat for children, and I've started texting her on that to communicate. One more thing, since you laughed at that. She's 11, right? My husband and I got invited to a chat, and the group was called Just Us Three Before Stinky James Was Born. We had to say, "That's bullying, Alice," and leave. Back to the chat. Back to the, you know what I'm talking about. Concealing discomfort from sensory inputs like bright lights or loud noise to avoid drawing attention. These lights are killing me. Dressing in a certain way and conforming. So what helps? There's no simple solution. The discrimination and judgment that comes with unmasking, sadly, is terrifying. The best thing to do is become self-aware. Then surround yourself with people who are safe to unmask with. I actually love that book, Neurotribes, by Steve Silberman. I've read it twice. If you know someone who's neurodivergent, the best thing you can do is make the environment and people around them understanding so that they can feel safe to unmask. This means embracing the differences rather than trying to suppress them. Thanks for the lighting. So how do we manage burnout in the workplace? First of all, we start by recognising triggers. So identify specific workplace activities, environments, or situations that cause stress or sensory overload. Use a journal to track patterns and recognise early warning signs. For sensory regulation, try to manage those sensory sensitivities, like noise-cancelling headphones, fidget toys, comfortable lighting, comfortable clothes. Create a sensory-friendly workspace or find quiet areas at work to retreat when you're feeling overwhelmed. For self-care, prioritise breaks and incorporate activities through the workday. Practice relaxation techniques like deep breathing or short mindfulness sessions. You're totally not going to do that anyway. Avoid prolonged stress. Set clear boundaries to limit those high-stress situations. Communicate with your manager and colleagues about the need for accommodations and support. Prioritise rest and low-demand recovery. So make sure you're taking regular breaks throughout the day. Engage in low-demand activities that provide a mental and emotional break away from work. Just going into the kitchen to fill up your water bottle can help with that. Routine. I was like thinking routine, not developers, but routine. A consistent work routine helps provide structure and predictability. So include time for self-care, sensory regulation, and rest as part of your daily work routine. So structure. Break work tasks into manageable steps. I'm not going to mention Scrum. Break them down. That's going to help you with the overwhelm. Try out different tools like planners or digital apps to organise and structure those work tasks and deadlines. I'm not going to mention Kanban or work in progress. Use frameworks. We love them. And with those flexible working arrangements, when you're applying for a new job, that's way more important than whatever the salary is, trust me. So yeah, sensory stuff. Noise cancelling headphones, no brainer. Flexible seating options, and what I mean with that is at home I have a couple of different chairs, like a normal chair, normal office chair, a saddle chair, and sometimes I just stand up. Weighted blankets, sensory-friendly lighting, and just remember it's different for all of us. So just do what works for you. And engage in activities you love and allow yourself to be authentic. Creating something with your hands can be very therapeutic. Spend time on hobbies and passions that bring you joy. Engage in arts, crafts, or cooking. Now, for me, when I can't crochet anymore or cross-stitch and I don't want to cook, red flag, we might be burnt out. Listen. Physical well-being. So remember to stay hydrated, eat nourishing foods, maintain good sleep hygiene, ensure constant rest. That's really, really important. But so is regular movement. Ideally, I should be practicing yoga daily. That's what the autism spectrum disorder psychologist told me. Yoga daily is what you guys should be doing. None of you ever do it anyway. I practice 4 days a week, and that's not enough. Set clear boundaries, like no after-hours work notifications, and just say no to extra tasks when needed. Journaling and meditation can help manage stress. For my journaling, I like to do bullet journaling. I haven't included that in the slides, but just mental note, and if you want to know more about that, come talk to me later. So make sure, actually, this was on the previous slide, and I decided to make a whole slide of its own because it was just so important. So make sure that you spend time in nature. Being outside in nature can work wonders, and when you prioritise your breaks, prioritise nature. Lots of autistic people struggle with artificial lights, loud noises, and crowded spaces. Nature provides softer sounds, gentle lighting, and less overwhelming stimuli. And that can be beneficial for sensory processing. So studies show that spending time in nature reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and being outside helps with emotional regulation, making it easier to recover from sensory or social stress. It actually enhances focus and executive function. Nature-based activities, even just looking at images of nature, improve working memory and attention. And this is especially beneficial for those who experience attention difficulties like ADHD and autism. With the grounding, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of grounding, but encourage grounding and body awareness. So grounding is walking on different textures, usually barefoot, grass, sand, water, and that helps with proprioception and balance. Proprioception is the body's ability to sense its position, movement, and balance without even looking. So it's how you know where your limbs are in space, even with your eyes are closed, even when your eyes are closed. Anyone ever been called unco before? Our brains crave familiarity. It feels safe and easy. For autistic individuals, burnout can result from constant unpredictability and mental overload. So repetition and routines help restore cognitive ease, reducing stress and exhaustion. This is why predictable environments and structured recovery strategies are essential for managing our burnout. So managing energy is important, and to help with that, we can use things like time blocking. I've got a picture up there. Time blocking, it creates predictability and structure. There's the Pomodoro, which I've got up there as well, and visual timers help prevent that overstimulation. So here's my visual timer here. I know I've got 15 minutes left. So has anyone heard of the spoon theory? For those who haven't, imagine you start each day with a certain number of spoons. Each spoon represents your energy. Every time you do something, like getting dressed, going to work, you're going to use up one spoon. And once all your spoons are gone, you have no more energy left for that day. So, impact of running out of spoons. Overwhelm, so that's a higher risk of meltdowns and feeling unable to function. Exhaustion, that's pressing on without spoons, leads to severe fatigue and burnout and results in prolonged recovery times. And then we have the cycle. So overexertion and inadequate recovery creates a damaging cycle, which brings me into my next slide about boom bust. Fatigue is debilitating and it's a vicious cycle. It's normal to want to rest after doing something that causes fatigue, but extended rest can lead to less activity in general. This can result in even less energy. Think deconditioning. And the activities backlog catches up with you, leading to being exhausted. So with the boom bust or boom bust cycle, on a good day, you might get heaps done, but then you crash. This kind of pacing failure is referred to as the boom and bust. Over time, increased deconditioning leads to additional symptoms. And the more you go through this cycle, the harder it is to break. It's really, really important to monitor your energy levels or spoons. Spend your energy wisely and make sure you allow time to recover. Using an activity diary helped me identify those unhelpful activity patterns and manage my energy needs. So here's my personal experience. I found that keeping an activity diary with pacing framework helps balance energy and avoid that boom and bust cycle. Pacing is widely recognised in fatigue management, and while I'm not a medical professional, this is what I was advised when I originally had that sleep disorder where I was sleeping too long. That's what I was advised that worked, and it actually did. And if you're interested to know more about it, usually an exercise physiologist or occupational therapist can help with this. Okay, so the purpose of doing one of these diaries is to understand the triggers and to stabilise your routine. So those triggers that are making you feel burnt out. So what we are trying to monitor our sleep patterns, daily activities like work, rest, reading, socialising, just even watching TV. And then we're going to rate them as low, moderate, or high energy. For an example, an activity that is physically demanding, requires concentration, is emotionally exhausting, and leaves you feeling worse than before you started it, label that one as hard, colour it red. So use those 3 different coloured highlighters to colour code. That's going to help you identify unhelpful activity patterns or busts. So once you've identified your busts, back off on the intensity or duration of those activities. Alternatively, if you can, temporarily cease doing them at all. But then there's the unavoidable activities. So for appointments, taking kids to school, or going to a friend's birthday party, plan ahead to reduce the impact. Incorporate downtime for the rest of the day or day after if you have to. So taking those regular breaks is crucial to reducing physical and emotional exhaustion. For autistic individuals, having a predictable routine is essential. Planning leave in advance helps create that predictability. And by spending leave throughout the year, by spreading the leave throughout the year, we ensure ongoing rejuvenation, helping to maintain our well-being. So this quote from Mike Viking reminds us all of the joy of looking forward to future experiences. Anticipation plays a role in increasing our overall happiness. And by planning experiences well into the future, we give ourselves something to look forward to. Like, I know a break is going to come. Yeah, but how? Lots of us find planning leave really intimidating or overwhelming. Just start small. So whether you're planning a big holiday or a short break, the goal is to prioritise well-being. So just regular, planned rest makes a world of difference. Your support team. So managing neurodivergence isn't a solo effort, it takes a support team. And depending on your needs, different specialists can help in different ways. An autism spectrum disorder psychologist helps navigate emotions, social challenges, and autistic burnout. This is the one who diagnoses autism. An ADHD psychiatrist can assist with diagnosis, medication, and treatment options for ADHD. He's the guy that referred me to the ASD guy. Then we have an ADHD coach who provides structure and tools for daily life, like time management and organisation. This is my best, the exercise physiologist. The exercise physiologist ensures movement supports both physical and mental well-being. Then there's occupational therapy. I've never had it, but it focuses on sensory regulation and practical life skills. Importantly, sleep specialist can address those unique sleep struggles that a lot of us have. And if you've got sleep apnea on top of being autistic or whatever, go get help with your sleep. And not in my notes, but we know that a lack of sleep can mimic, or sleep deprivation can mimic the symptoms of ADHD. So yeah, also a GP that can work with all your other specialists and you. Self-awareness, self-advocacy and understanding your needs are just as important as professional support. And please remember, neurodivergence isn't about fixing anything. It's about finding the right strategies and support we need to thrive. And to wrap up today, we covered the hidden cost of burnout, how fatigue hits differently, and then some practical strategies for rest and recovery. If sharing my journey helped even just one of you better understand neurodiversity, whether it's in yourself, a loved one, or a colleague, then every challenge I've faced thus far has had purpose. Think of neurodivergent people as running a different operating system, not broken, not needing a patch, just designed differently. The issue itself isn't the OS, it's the environment and expectations built for a single standard. And what I've spoken to about today aren't issues about autism. No, they're problems caused by workplaces and systems that don't accommodate different ways of thinking. Many see not fitting in as a flaw, but in reality, it often means approaching problems from a unique and valuable perspective. If nurtured, these differences become strengths. Neurodivergent people don't need fixing. We need understanding, support, and an environment where we can thrive. Thank you. If anybody's got questions? That guy.
Hi, I've read your post on the thing before I joined in, late stage diagnosis ADHD. I just did that myself. And then watching you go through all of this stuff, like it resonates quite strongly, not all of it, but a lot of it. One of the things I found when going through that was finding a language to talk about what I was experiencing. But one of the things from sitting in this room and seeing yours and hearing other people's feedback is none of this is presented in the workplace. None of this is part of the conversation. And to me, I don't know how to address that, especially as someone moving up the internal ladder of organizations, being a team lead at points and lead engineer now. Like, parts of this should be acknowledged and open and available, and that should empower us who struggle with some of these things to tackle it. So I guess, what's your experience in like being able to have this conversation and making it visible while also not trying to isolate and put a target on your back?
Yeah, you want to be really, really careful with that. So yeah, I could probably stand here for another hour just talking about that. Make sure you're all for coming out, but sometimes they'll use that against you. And I don't say that lightly. Yeah, you've really got to find a safe space. Sometimes it really just is better to just, put your head down and sorry, but we're not that far ahead. I'm hoping that we can get there. One of the reasons why I'm here is because, I've got 2 kids and they're going to go into the workplace someday, and I want it to be a better place. I guess what we could be doing, to indirectly answer your question, is what we should be doing is, as managers, leaders, making sure accommodations are there for everybody to use them. So, as a Scrum Master, I make sure that I have regular breaks in our ceremonies. I say, hey, is now a good time for a break, guys? I've never had the team say no. Should we have a 2-minute break or a 1-minute break? And I put my little timer up. So that's not an accommodation that we just have for those who are autistic or have ADHD. That's for everybody. And those people who need those accommodations will use them regardless whether they've been diagnosed or not.
Hi, sort of iterating on the point that the previous question asker, I don't know what to call it. So I found that some workplaces are just actively hostile towards people who are neurodivergent. I've worked in factories and in emergency services, and some workplaces are just outright hostile to people who are neurodivergent. Like no sort of concessions are given in some of them. It's disheartening, but I am noticing it is getting better over time as there's more awareness of spread over this sort of topic.
Thank you. Don't worry, guys, I'm not going anywhere. If there's more questions, we run out of time. I think we've got 1 minute left.
Got a Scrum question for you.
Can we hold it till later?
It's ADHD related, so.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. How do you find, there are some days where I can keep on top of Scrum ceremonies and keep on top of updating JIRAs, and other days where I just can't. How do you sort of manage that with your energy levels, and do you have any tips? This is...
It's going to take a while. I think it's going to be more than 30 seconds. Does anyone, do you want me to answer that question, guys? Yeah, okay, I was hoping to get out of it. Yeah, okay, so basically I started in a job about, early December, and I'm in a bit of trouble for upsetting someone, so yeah, they removed me from the project and started performance managing, what I feel like is performance management, and I've had to put all of my work into Jira. So I've been removed from a team and said, now you're doing this work, put it all, not in Jira, in Azure DevOps. And I'm like, awesome, bloody awesome, smashing it out. And I basically put everything in there and don't work on it unless it's a ticket. And I don't move it, I basically only work on the one ticket at once. And once that gets blocked, I move it into wherever it needs to be moved, leave it, assign it, and just pick up the next ticket. And it needs to be routine. It sounds to me that some days you're feeling burnt out and you probably can't do it. And it also might be that you have pathological demand avoidance, where sometimes just telling someone to move the tickets across is overwhelming. So I once had before I was diagnosed, a developer who was being performance managed. I was new to the team, brand new Scrum Master. He was 50 years old. He was a Lotus Notes guy, being told he had to do... Forgotten the language, who cares? But yeah, I realised after talking to him that it wasn't the technical problem that he had with working on tickets. It was moreover that he felt really stressed about watching the tickets move from to do, doing and done. And in that instance, I worked with him and the rest of the team so that he could just work on his tickets from the top of the backlog. So when we were planning the sprint, I made sure to incorporate those tickets, but not really, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question? Half? No, doesn't, does it? Sorry. We're at time?
Yes. Round of applause, everybody. Thank you so much, Ellie.